folks. Welcome to the show, Exile Minds podcast. Me, Lee, and Martin. Thanks for joining us. So today, 24th of December, or at least for me, Saturday, 24th of December, 2022, 4 minutes past 2 a.m. Doing a late night one for me. Super duper late night. But yeah, it's all good. I just want to drop a show before Christmas, keep the momentum going and all that. So yeah. So today, right, got a show. So I did a bit of a kind of Christmassy show in a way about Santa Claus, and it reminded me of I had a show that I'd been sort of partially planning before. I have these ideas. Got a bit of a list of shows that I thought might be good topics to cover, sort of thing. So yeah, little people got me thinking, because I did the sort of Santa Claus and the elves thing. So I thought, yeah, got the little people show. Thought I got a bit further than the elves, because it went a particular direction with the elves. They talked the DMT elves and stuff. The Santa Claus show, the previous, went another direction still. So I thought, hey, let's have a look. This is a little people's story. See if there's any legends about that stuff, because of course I'm from Britain, got the fairy folk, garden gnomes and that kind of thing. So I thought, yeah, let's see if that's a thing. So I thought the premise of this show today is let's have a look at the little people, myths of mini humanoids throughout the world. Because there's kind of like lost chapters in history, I think. So I'm into ancient archaeology and stuff. I just think, I reckon there's plenty of lost chapters, plenty of evidence for it. At least lost civilizations. So I think, well, can't there be lost peoples then that was different to us back in the day? Perhaps been many iterations. We've wiped out a lot of animals. So it's like, well, maybe people have been wiped out, got supplanted. So yeah, maybe some of these little people are for real. Or they were. And that's the thing. So I thought in today's show we'll explore that. Folklore surrounding little people. Have a look at some of the legends commonplace throughout the world, turns out. so yeah, it is all over the world. And I thought just take a journey, look, of discovery down a rabbit hole. Where one thought makes you big, the one makes you small, Go and see what's going on down there. So, is it a widespread notion? It does seem to be, but let's see how widespread it goes. Because so you got it in Britain, so we'll see. What are the tales telling us? The tales can give us a bit of information about them, can't they? And sometimes the place name is because of a story. I always think it's funny that you get so many places called like Devil's Creek or Devil's Pass or Devil's Canyon, and you think, it's just a big "don't go there" sign. But yeah, is there anything to indicate some of this folklore might be based in something true? Is there some truth to any of this? So I want to look at today, and is indeed there any evidence? So let's have a look then. Let's have a deep dive. So first up, let's get this article up. So article on Atlas Obscura. We've got this mysterious article from the 31st of October 2013, written by Jeremy Fulberg. So like I say, that's on Atlas Obscura. And we've got the headline, The Mysterious Pedro Mountain Mummy. 31 days of is like from a Halloween session. It's 31 days of Halloween Obscura this month. Celebrating Halloween. Okay, so we've got this mummy, the Pedro Mountain Mummy. Two prospectors were looking for gold, and a shot of dynamite seemed like a good start. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, blow things up. That's the way to do things. It was the summer of 1934 in central Wyoming. Cecile Main and Frank Carr set a charge and a glut at the foot of the foot. Get my teeth in. They set a charge in a glut at the foot of a high point in the Pedro Mountains that stripped down the east side of the Pathfinder Reservoir. The explosion ripped open the earth and revealed a cave. Mayne crawled into the cave, a small place, almost a coat closet tipped over, a little box. There he found a rock ledge about 2.5 feet above the ground. No gold. Duh. The cave was empty, except for a mummy. Mummified remains. It looked like a small, wizened man sitting on the ledge, his eyes closed, arms crossed, his feet tucked under him. His skin was brown and dried by the arid Wyoming climate. His mouth was drawn into a placid scowl. A lean Buddha with a misshapen head. So, yeah. So have a look at this picture for those on the video there. Yeah. Yeah, it's like sitting in a bit of a meditative position there. Arms kind of crossed. Yeah, look, we've got a bit of a resting face. Okay, let's carry on with the article. It was tiny, perhaps 6.5 inches tall or so, sitting down. It weighed just about a pound. Mayne and Carr may not have known it at the time, but they held a real treasure in their hands. The Pedro Mountain mummy made the rounds. 2 years later, a sworn statement by Mayne shows the mummy belonged to Homer F. Sherrill. At some point, it was owned by Floyd Jones, who had a drugstore in Wyoming town of Meeteetse. A young basketball player who visited the town at the time later recalled seeing the mummy in a drugstore window. Jones sold postcards of the mummy to bring some additional cash. It was a sideshow attraction, as you can imagine. So there's people who've seen it and wrote about it. Eyewitness accounts and cards and postcards and stuff. So yeah, in 1936, a young Eugene Bashaw convinced his father to pay the 25 cents for his son to see the mummy. So it says here that rushed look at the mummy was the first. So they paid 25 cents tour, not even the 50 cents tour. So yeah, probably just a quick flash, lift the curtain up, put it back down. So the rushed look at the mummy was the start of Bashaw's lifelong search for more information about it. Okay, so there's a nice picture there in the jar. Get some kind of idea of the sort of sizing of it. The mummy was a tale from. It said, but the mummy tale was far from over. Eventually, it made its way to Ivan Goodman, a car dealer in Casper, not far from where the mummy was discovered. He showed off the mummy, but now seated atop a wooden base topped by a tall inverted glass jar. I guess that's the picture we saw. Almost as if the mummy was in a cake display. It just kind of looked. It is one of them kind of things. Yeah, like a cake display. Okay. At some point, the mummy got X-rayed. I've done some testing on it then. The images proved the mummy wasn't a fake. Ooh, okay. As soon as they hit it with a sign, an X-ray, that's... okay. Its flesh stretched over the skeleton with visible vertebrae, rib cage, an arm, and leg bones. Goodman featured the mummy in car advertisements and apparently offered for display by others. The hype poster barked the claims. It's educational. It's scientific. It will amaze and thrill you. It's a pygmy preserved, as if actually alive. The poster featured photos of the mummy and the x-rays of it. From left to right, Goodman's name was at the end of the tale, with a blank line filled in by whoever is displaying the mummy. So this pygmy was 65 years old when it dried, as the poster claimed. That wasn't actually true, it says here, but it was a fascinating story, one that could sell. Okay, so try and make it like it's an old man that's small or something. Alright, it's made that bit up. There's him holding it. Oh, there's Casper. That's a good little shot, actually. The X-rays, though, that's pretty impressive. I mean, it's quite enthralling to sit and think about, really. That you can find a tiny tiny little person, sort of thing. And then you got to think it's not real when you find it, surely. You know, I had a moment where I saw a cat from a distance, but the way it was sat and the light, and it was in broad daylight as well. It was black and white cat and had a white chest, but it was on a corner, and behind was a bit of a mud bank, and there should have been a hedge there, but there was a bit of a hole in this mud bank behind it. And the way it framed it, and the way the mud was, and the shadows, it looked just like a little man in like a tuxedo with a top hat. You know, like the size of a cat. And as I was getting close, like getting freaked out as I was getting close, like, no way. There's not a little man in a tuxedo with a top hat, like a foot high. There can't be. It's a trick of the eye. They would have been a bit freaky. I mean, yeah, they found one and they x-rayed it. It's got the bones, so it was a bit weird. Anyway, far out, but that's what we got on with the article. Okay, so also, it's saying it's in a jar. It's also an item that could be stolen. The one with, yeah, it's stealable because it's small, you know, especially put it in a nice case as well. It's going to preserve it. You just grab that, swipe it. So, yeah, it's also, it could be stolen. The one was lost about 1950. It's not clear how. The press reports vary. Some claim Goodman took the mummy to New York City and lost it to a con man. Others say he sold it. Others say the mummy just vanished. Years later, University of Wyoming physical anthropologist George Gill picked up on the story, reportedly from his students. He says it's likely the mummy was an infant suffering from, oh, what's this word? Anencephalia. Anencephalia, that would do. Oh, I wonder if we'll get the computer to read it. Will Hazel be able to hustle this one? There we go, let's try it. Hazel, no, yes, no, yes, no. Oh, I'll try. Oh, I've got to give it some volume. What is this word?
Encephaly.
An encephaly. Are you sure? That don't seem right.
Anencephaly.
An encephaly. Okay. He says it's like the mummy was an infant suffering from encephaly. Oh, forget that. A defect that means that a fetus doesn't develop major proportions of the brain. Okay, so that's trying to account for the head deformity. The mummy wasn't a pygmy. It wasn't an old man, as they sort of made up in the beginning. It was an infant born with a birth defect, almost always fatal. Unusually, it was buried in a cave in a seated position atop a ledge. So that is a bit wild, that. Yeah, the mummy sparked the legends of the little people. See, yeah, this is where I was interested in this. For it was, you know, hit that little people term, you know, little folk. So it tells a race of tiny human beings described by the Indian legends of Wyoming. Okay, so they've already got tales of that stuff there, and then they find one that could be it. All right, plot thickens. It's possible buried mummies such as the Pedro Mountain mummy might have started and sustained such legends. Okay, so that could have kicked off the legend, but then again, who are they? See, it's not. Do you know what I mean? It's like that sort of hinting at, oh, maybe finding them got people thinking legends of little people. Yeah, but they are little, and if you're finding lots of them, then it just kind of stands to reason, doesn't it? So, anyway. In 2005, John Adolphi of Syracuse, New York, offered $10,000 reward for the mummy, claiming it would disprove evolution. Yet the mummy stayed hidden. Since Gill first heard of the Pedro Mountain mummy, he served as something of a living archive of the news and knowledge. Someone once brought him what they thought was a valuable mummy head. Gill's research showed it was just an interestingly carved and dried hunk of vegetable matter. Unlucky. Put his quids in there, but no, it's turnip. Sorry, Duck. Dan Antiques Roadshow. How embarrassing. He stores that in cotton tucked into a clear globe. Gil thought the Pedro Mountain mummy was gone, but he says he recently learned that the mummy may be okay, somewhere safe, but he won't say any more. Ooh, ominous. The search goes on. Yeah, maybe somebody swept it away because some of these institutions perhaps might want to hide it. Who knows? I could point fingers, but we'll leave that. Okay, yeah, so I mean, yeah, so you've got this misshapen head. It's kind of like a bit as if you kind of squashed your head a bit and it went pointed out at the sides. Like a bit, yeah. So it's strange. It is a strange one. So we've got that there, the mummy of San Pedro Mountains from that article there. Alta Obscuria, Atlas Obscuria.com. So yeah, that's a bit of an unusual one. But I thought I'll go on and see if there's any more then, because that was a bit strange. Like I say, currently it looks as if it's sort of missing, might be with some collector. Like I say, maybe they're trying to preserve these things. Because if I had loads of money, I'd want to get these oddities and try and save them, and and research and kind of make sure they don't get dumped in the ocean by some alphabet agency. Just because some university's freaking, it might undo stuff. Because that kind of thing happens. But anyway, next up, we've got the pygmy graves in Idaho. So when they say pygmy, I think I don't know if they're necessarily referring to the people called pygmy. It might be a sort of generic term for like small people. And we might say the little people or the fairy folk or dwarfs. I don't know. That's what I'm going to presume in this. But anyway, this article. Pygmy Graveyard in Idaho. It was posted the 13th of December 2001 by Denver Michaels. So, as the story goes, in the past, much attention has been devoted to the discoveries of diminutive skeletons in the ground around White Country, Tennessee, during the 1800s, collectively known as the Tennessee Pygmies. The tiny finds have their share of detractors, as well as a few folk, such as myself, that believe the mysteries warrant a closer look. What most folk familiar with the subject may not realise is that small or pygmy skeletons have been recovered elsewhere, such as Kentucky and Iowa. So Tennessee, Kentucky, and Iowa. The Gentleman's Magazine ran a piece about a pygmy graveyard in the Antiquarian News section of the August 1837 issue. So it's been reported back in the day. See, that's that sort of 1837 to 1860s kind of period of time. That the mid 1800s in America. There's quite a few finds that come up there. That's where you get some of the giant bones and giant axes and stuff that they found in that sort of time. So there was some weird stuff being found, and there's a lot of legends. So it's fun to think about. Anywho, moving on. So, right, where are we? So this is from the magazine, for the Gentleman's Magazine for about antiques. Okay, so a short distance from Cochocotton, Iowa, US, a singular ancient burying ground has lately been discovered. It is situated, says a writer in Silliman's journal, on one of those elevated, gravely alluvion so common on the west of the rivers. Some of the remains of the wood still apparent on the earth around the bones. The bodies seem to have all been deposited in coffins, and what's more still curious is the fact that the bodies buried here were generally no more than 3 to 4.5 feet in length. Okay, they're very numerous, That's not super small, is it? So 3 feet to 4.5 feet. Okay, still small people. Not that ecobical tiny like the other one, is it? But it's just small people, so legit. Let's check it out. They are very numerous, so they found lots and lots of them. It must have been tenants of a considerable city. Oh, enough to see. Okay, that many numerous. Or the numbers could have not been so great. Yeah, so they must have had a big city because they found enough to. Okay, all right. A large number of graves have been opened. The inmates. The inmates of which are all of this pygmy race. No metallic articles or utensils have yet been found to throw light on the period of the nations to which they belonged. That was from the gentleman. This is another reporting from the Centennial History of Costacon County, Iowa, published in 1909. They write, the earliest accounts of speaking... I'll share the page. The earliest accounts of the mounds regarding even the Indian days as structures of remote antiquity. The missionary Zeisberger noted 133 years ago the numerous signs of an ancient race here. Okay, so he's saying only 133 years ago. So this is in 1909. Yeah, so it's so then they're talking like the late 1700s. The late 17th century. I mean, yeah. So, wow, that's not that long ago, is it? Anyway, so mission is 133 years ago. Numerous signs of an ancient race here. He refers particularly to the cemetery containing thousands of graves near the mound 3 miles south of Costacon. The skeletons reduced to chalky ash. So the skeletons reduced chalky ashes were 3 feet, again, to 4 feet and a half in height. Same, 4.5 feet in height. Okay. Smaller than Indian or mound skeletons, these pygmies have led to much conjecture. Thus far, no definite conclusions is recorded of any of the notices of the ancient cities of the dead. The bibliography of Iowa earthworks prepared for the Smithsonian Institution includes the notice of Howe's historical collections, quoted from Dr. Hildreth's description of Silliman's journal from 1835. This also mentions an ancient cemetery of pygmies near St. Louis. Okay. There are skeletons were found stone sepulchres. Okay. Found stone sepulchres where there seem to also be wooden coffins. Discovery of the pygmies' graves on the Keene Bethlehem Township line is credited to J.C. Milligan. Hildreth relates that one of the Costaton's graves was found a skeleton 5.5 feet long with decaying pieces of oak and iron nails. Okay. The skull was triangular in shape, much flattened at the sides and the back, though not with a slant brow or flat head Indians as Indians seen in the West. The hole pierced in the back of the skull. A hole pierced the back of the skull. The bones were displaced. The skull being found with the pelvis from which herein the body was dismembered before burial. In the St. Louis cemetery found among the pygmies one skeleton of rather large development, though not taller than the rest. The legs were cut off at the knees and placed alongside the thigh bones. Michener tells the Nakekok tribes of the Maryland drying the bones of the dead and carrying them in wrappings from place to place as generation after generation sought new hunting grounds and that eventually their ancestral bones found a final resting place at the valley of Coshtetton when the last of the tribes became too weakened by war to move farther. This tradition was credited to a Nanticoke convert who was with Zyberger, but it meets with skepticism, which has observed the uncertainty of the Indian memory of how commonly Indian traditions die out. As for instance, the southern tribes who retained no recollection whatsoever of De Soto's expedition. Okay, so I suppose it's the saying. I suppose that's kind of muddy in the waters a bit for me. It's a bit like saying, "Oh well, maybe I don't know." It's a bit like, for me, it's a bit wordy, and it's a bit. I know it's written years ago, but it's a bit like saying, "Oh well, they might have forgot," or I don't know. Maybe you can't take them seriously. I don't know. It just feels a bit. Ooh. Anyway, I'd skip past this bit. Yeah, so the fandom in several places. Then, so that was from 1909. Let's just skip to the end here. It's quite a long. Oh, it's got Arnell's mentioned. Yeah, okay. So a statement appears in Graham's history of Coshtetton County that the Moravians minister from Pennsylvania visited ancient cemetery here and remarked a custom among the Moravians of burying the old in separate rows from the young. That's curious, isn't it? Okay, it's separating. While this would explain the uniform smallness of the Moravians' graves, it does not explain the absence from the missionaries' records of any considerable mortality among the younger, or even, for a matter of fact, the elder members of the Moravian mission. So this is saying, well, they've found some small graves of these other people in Pennsylvania, but they assume that was because, they're burying the adults and children kind of in separate rows, so they must all be children. But then they've got no records of saying, we found this grave full of small coffins. They're assuming they must have all been kids, but they ain't got any records of saying a load of kids died. Or anyway, so I seen that, and I thought I have to pull on that thread a bit. So yeah, I don't know what to make of it. So I thought, well, these Moravians, let's check these out then. It's Pennsylvania Pygmies, the Moravians. They're within Wikipedia as well. I'd never heard of them, but they're in sort of Wikipedia. It's just like, it's regular people. And I'm thinking, well, what is this? Are they just? Is it? I'll get this Wikipedia page up. Oh yeah, just like regular people. It's just like an order of the church. This is our Lamb has, our Lamb has conquered. That's like, let us follow him. Just like a church order. So we'll check into them and see what they're saying. The Moravians. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Moravians, or Unitas Fratem, the United Brethren, German-speaking Protestants. So it's like, well, don't seem anything super special. They just seem like a regular order that origins from 1457. So I don't know. Was it like were they protected then? Was it part of the church, these little people? I don't know. I just thought it was a curious link that there's an actual church order of some of these people from the Pennsylvania graves. So what's going on here? What's going on? So then I don't know. Let's go on to read a bit more about these then from Wikipedia. I'll say you can look these things up. I'll have the links in the description, of course. You can look at this for yourself. So that's why the point of this is. Got to share each other's ideas, haven't we? See what we can find. Yeah, it says this is it's a Protestant group. Then it says it's one of the oldest Protestant denominations in Christianity, dating back to the Bohemian Reformation of the 15th century and the unity of the Brethren. So it's like founded in the Kingdom of Bohemia, 60 years before Luther's Reformation. The church's heritage can be traced to 1457 in Bohemian Crown territory, including the Crown Islands of Moravia and Silesia, which saw the emergence of the Hussite movement against several practices and doctrines of the Catholic Church. Oh, okay. Oh, that might be why they've disappeared. Went up against. However, its name is derived from exiles who fled from the Bohemia to Saxony in 1722 to escape the Counter-Reformation, establishing the Christianity community of Herrnhut. Hence, since it was also known in German as Herrnhuter. Okay, unity of the brethren. Looking at the timeline, just a curious spitballing thought here, but looking at the timeline, then I kind of make it look like maybe there was this maybe there were these little people, maybe they're part of the church, then some Reformation comes along and they've gone after him, and they might have annoyed him in the past. Maybe they just decided there was witches or imps or, no, you know what I'm saying? It'd be a bit like, who's taught, like, this people that are taller than other types of people in the world, isn't it? So it's like, it'd be like just picking on them and going, oh no, what are you bad? I don't know. I wonder. Just curious. Like an excuse, especially if they've gone up against them. Maybe there was some fundamental philosophical difference that threatens them. I don't know. Scary. Anyway. So next then. So next I thought, what about some other strange encounters, little people? In fact, let me just... I've got another one coming up next. Is literally, I like this one because from Britain. There's a TV show called Red Dwarf, and I didn't realise there's actual things called red dwarfs, which we got from a mysterious universe. Let's get this link up, and I'm just going to pop some music on, make a quick drink. Back in like, I don't know, 120 odd seconds ish. But yeah, I'm going to put some music on just for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to make my son a drink, and we'll get to this strange encounters with mysterious people of Detroit. So I don't know, check it out, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna quickly pop some music on, make a quick drink, and then we're back in a sec. On the Exile Minds podcast, Liam Martin. Couple of minutes, not be long. Welcome back. Awesome. Welcome back to the Exile Minds podcast. Me, Liam Martin. Today, 24th December, 2022. I'll carry on with these articles about little people. It'll be fun, this one. It's got another one in Detroit. So, yeah, we've got a few more. Blast through them now. So that one of them, that article from back in the day was taking it as long. They really worded the way they do stuff. Anyway, yeah, so let's check this then. Let me share this with you. So, Detroit, more strange encounters of mysterious people. Oh, okay, what's this? Oh, some playing in the background. That's all good. Right then, there we go then. So, strange encounters of mysterious little people of Detroit? Question mark. So we're here for questions, dig into things. Right then, as I mentioned, yeah, so throughout the world, there's been, nearly every culture, tales of little people. Okay, so it starts the article, like we've mentioned, you've got fairies, gnomes, elves, tiny, strange people in folklore. It's like, what is this? So, we've got one here. It says in this Mysterious Universe article, far from merely a bit of folklore, there have been actual sightings of these beings dating back from before European settlement all the way up to the modern day. Mysterious little people of Detroit are one of those more bizarre stories of such creatures out there. The tale has its origins with the Ottawa tribe, which inhabited the area that would then become Detroit, Michigan, in the United States, and revolves around the curious entities known as the Nain Rouge or Red Dwarf. Contrary to the image one may have of Detroit today, this was once an untamed wilderness, populated by all manner of spirit folk of Native American legend. And Michigan, well, I do believe as well, I don't know, in Michigan, it's got a big lake, hasn't it? Water portals and water kind of tying together. If you kind of look into it, it seems to somehow, it's a bit of a thing. In a little group, a Trouble Minds group, people would talk to. But yeah, and Stargate, think of Stargate. That's a literal water portal, right? But anyway, moving on. So yeah, American Age. Yeah, Michigan. I don't know, I just wonder. Because I think there's PowerPoints where some of these sort of, the veil is thinner, you know, where there's points on the earth where I think things are more likely to be magical, let's say. Like those mysterious places that you get. In the place in America where everything's supposed to go a bit backwards, like gravity is wrong or something. But anyway, yeah, you get these things. Magnetic anomalies and stuff. But anyway, Untamed Wilderness used to be Michigan area. And you got the Nain Rouge that used to live there, or maybe still do. They were said to indeed be mischievous, as many suppose the little folk and other traditions often think of them as mischievous, but also as protectors of the land. Powerful nature spirits that are caretakers of the earth. With the coming of the first French settlers, the newcomers to the land brought their own visions of the mythology from their homelands. Of course, yeah. So if you've gonna project your own folklore, if you do see any sightings, yeah, known for these they had one then the French settlers called Lutin. So these were the red dwarfs. They were calling them Lutin, and if they'd seen them. So the French settlers are carrying on with the article. So French settlers have fairy-like entities known as the Lutin, which had its origins in Normandy. The Lutin were long considered to be mean-spirited trickster spirits, prone to prankish behaviour, seemed to fit perfect for the strange gnomes of the natives. The two traditions became intertwined. Yeah, it kind of makes sense, actually. Yeah, you've already got a legend there that matches one that you've got from home. Gonna kind of call it that, aren't you? Gonna get mixed together. And when you meet natives, they might take on the name of your thing. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Cultures blend. All right, yeah, nice image there. Looking a little bit is okay. So you kind of red dwarf, red. Kind of got horns though, and pointy teeth, so they look a bit devilly. But yeah, definitely looks a bit dwarf-like as well, or gnomey, his big beard. Plaited together too. Practical. Maybe he's I don't know if I'm stereotyping is going to upset with me. Maybe he's like a dwarf type, has to do mining, tie his beard together, make sure I don't get caught. I don't know. Maybe he's doing labour. Who knows? But anyway, moving on. So you got this nice image of that there, mythological creature. There's thought to be European settlers thought that they were mostly benevolent forest entities, and that's how I think of it. Being European, that's how I think of these things like sprites or wisps or the kind of like wood elves, aren't they? The protectors of the land. I think that's sort of the job. I suppose I'm thinking of them a bit like elementals, but I don't know, maybe like minions for the elementals, like little tulpas for them. Anyway. The Nain Rouge were described as a small, child-sized humanoids with red old man faces, glowing eyes, jagged and yellow rotten teeth, and dressed in worn-down clothes, pointed hats and furry boots, sometimes without clothing and covered in a matted reddish-brown hair. There's a bit of a far-out one there, but then there's like accounts of it. There's this... the founder of Detroit said he's seen one. So I thought, so this is the story got my attention. The founder of Detroit claims, isn't it? What's his name? Is Antoine de la Motte Cadillac. That will be where Cadillac comes from then. One of the earliest such reports, starts in 1701. March the 10th, 1701. A founder of Detroit. Said he's seen one. So let's have a look there. I'm just going to zoom in a bit. Oh, bit far. Zoom in for the video. So yeah, 1701. Let's highlight that there. Da-da-da. Right, yeah, so the story goes with this guy. He was, oddly enough, before his encounter, he had another odd encounter. He had a mysterious fortune teller allegedly appeared with a cat on his shoulder, as you do. A cat on your shoulder. Parrot on the other one, if she's got a boyfriend. But anyway. Pirate and a fortune teller. That'd be the fun they'd have. But anyway, yeah, so it gets March the 10th, 1701. Founder of Detroit, Antoine de la Motte Cadillac, was approached by a mysterious fortune teller with a cat on the shoulder. And she reads his palm and tells him he was destined to start a great city, but this new colony would be, hit with great strife and bloodshed. She warned him to pay heed to the Nain Rouge and not to upset it, or it would certainly mean his downfall. But he was skeptical to this and mostly scoffed at it. Okay. When the Cadillac finally did find his sitter, okay, reportedly went out with his wife one night, a quiet walk, overheard two men complain about the new city. One of them saying he had seen a La Petite Nain Rouge, the little red dwarf, which was a sure sign of bad things to come. Oh, okay. So he's got his nice new sitter, and he can hear people going, "Oh no, I've seen a bad omen. It's not good." At the time, this amused Cadillac, but soon after, he reported that a deformed dwarf-like creature covered in a blackish red fur and with a beady, fierce red eyes shambled into view, and it had a crooked, horrendous teeth, crooked teeth, just like the description said. Cadillac allegedly bashed the foul creature over the head with a cane and told it to go away. But that's the last thing you want to do. You were told as well, be nice to him. Bash him over the head with your cane. You get charged. Anyway, the fearsome gnome just laughed and scampered off. I laugh at you. After Cadillac was supposedly beset by a myriad of misfortune after that, eventually dying alone and penniless. So, totally came true. Okay, we've got another report. Creature spotted multiple times, same time, frightened farmer claiming that he'd seen one in his roof barn, riling up the horses, peering through his window, stealing his chickens. Oh, what little, I don't know. Chupacabra-like behaviour, that is. It's unbecoming of a dwarf. Anyway. Yeah, so the beast on the 30th of July, 1763. On this day, 250 British troops had amassed in preparation for a surprise attack on a rebel force made up of a confederacy of Native Americans that had defied British post-war policy. How dare you? How dare you? I've got my sample. I'm not going to do it, though. Defying British post-war policies in an insurgent uprising known as Pontiac's War, named after one of the fiercest leaders of the Ottawa, Chief Pontiac. Oh, nice little picture there. That's a nice bit of art there. I like that. The war itself had developed into a brutal and ruthless campaign. So yeah, the fighting, lots of blood. Yeah, okay, so I was surprised to find a large contingent of 400 angry Native American warriors waiting for them and ready to fight. The ensuing battle would drive the British back, and said to be so bloody and vicious that the creek ran red with blood, changing its name to Bloody Run. Nearly 60 British soldiers died in the melee, including the commander for Sir Captain James Delisle, whose corpse was decapitated so that the head could be paraded around on a stick for all to see. Eyewitnesses, included many of the soldiers themselves, were claimed that they had seen one of the Nain Rouge sitting upon the banks of the creek before the battle, as if claiming a front row seat and waiting with glee to witness the carnage. In the aftermath of the fighting, the fearsome little dwarf was then allegedly witnessed to frolic and dance amongst the corpses that littered the ground and to wade about in the blood-stained waters of the creek. The creature's demeanour was described as being joyous and elated, as if celebrating the bloodshed. What? What? No. Okay. I don't want to read about this one anymore. Moving on. We've got plenty to get through. That's creepy. That's creepy. Another one. Detroit, Fire of 1805. Let's do one more. Because this guy is creeping me out. The Red Dwarf. Maybe we should move on. Oh, no. Show it. There's another one, though. 1805. Nah, screw it. There's loads to get through. Right. That's pretty creepy, though. People reporting these things. If there's any more. One from 1872. James Darcy claimed that she has been in a house and yeah, okay. Sightings. Okay, so there was one in 1805 in the Detroit fire. 1872, one woman named Jane Darcy claimed that she had just come back from her house on Elizabeth Street from running errands when she encountered what she described as a creature with blood red eyes, long teeth, and rattling hoofs lurking in a darkened room. The encounter was reportedly so shocking to Darcy that she passed out and ended up bedridden for some time. In 1884, another woman claimed to have been savagely attacked and beaten as she walked along the street at the night by a beast that looked like a baboon with a horned head, brilliant restless eyes, and a devilish leer on its face. But then it carries on in the 20th century. Malevolent little beasts or beasts were still up to their tricks. The creatures were sighted a few times before the 1967 Detroit uprising, which was one of the epidemic race riots that was sweeping the nation. So, okay, so this is another disaster situation. Well, like a clashing. The clashing. Oh, yeah, there's going to be some fight, like a charge. I wonder if it's like an energy tulpa. I wonder if it's like a tulpa that feeds on that stuff, or maybe they're interdimensional beings. Like, Monsters Inc. And they're like trying to scare people to get, but maybe it's not they're doing the scaring, they're just waiting to feed on it. Like in John Carter. If you watch that movie, it's a few years old now, it's not really much of a spoiler. But yeah, there's the baddies in there, the villains in there, kind of want to hang around war and kind of want it to happen. So, because they feed on it. It's just like a form of energy. I wonder then. The omens, and you hear that about banshees, in the folklore, with a whale. Like harbingers of harbingers. What's the word? Yeah, like warnings ahead of time. But yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so because there was they're talking about the bloodshed and wading in it, and then the race riots. That's obviously going to be highly energetically charged. Talk about like magic and stuff, and the psyche and because in the magic show, we found through the research, it's discovered that with doing the testing with magic, the emotional charge seems to really what kicks it off. In the far side, the remote viewers talk about we've got really big charge on that stuff. That's how it seems to pull these things off sometimes. So that's pretty fascinating. Yeah, maybe it's about that, about feeding on the bad vibes. All right, then. Okay, let's move on to another one. Then let's get off the red dwarf and let's see what else we got because there's quite a few. There's quite a few. There was similar to the red dwarf actually. There's this one. Since they're on it, there's this one that's from. They're called the Nissi. Nisse. They're from Scandinavia. I think it's Nisse. Or the Tomte. The Nissi and the Tomte. Or the Tomtenisi. I suppose it's like mixing them together, I guess. Or the Tom... Yeah, different spellings. But yeah, they got these here that are like kind of... I think I might have seen these on little cute little Christmas cards and stuff. But have a look at this, look. These tiny little, like... a tiny little red pointed hat on them. So it's kind of like a Santa hat, but not. So they're kind of like gnome hats. Long red pointed hat. But yeah, the Nisi are Danish and Norwegian. It's the Tomte. Oh no, Nisi's Danish, Norwegian. I've got Nisse as well. Tomte for the Swedish. Finnish is Tomtu. But yeah, it's a mythological creature from Nordic folklore today, typically associated with winter solstice and the Christmas season. They're generally described as being short and having a long white beard and wearing a conical or knit cap like the pointed cap like the red dwarf. Red or some other bright colour, they often have the appearance somewhat similar to that of a garden gnome. The Nisi are one of the familiar creatures of Scandinavian folklore, and he has appeared in many works of Scandinavian literature. Yeah, very similar. The pointed hat and the depictions are kind of similar. I wonder in the red again. Temperament. Let's just quickly see what they were like, see if they were kind of mean there. I'll zoom in a little bit for the video. So yeah, it says for the temperament, the Nisi of a pan-Scandinavian term is a current Norway. Oh, that's terminology. I thought they might have a... Yeah, okay, they've got a description of their appearance. So let's have a quick look at that. Yeah, man, small man, small like an elderly man. They're a few inches to half the height of an adult man. Okay, so they vary in size. It's a few inches to, half a man. So maybe like before, maybe like talking 3 feet ish. Okay. There's quite a wide range though. But it says here that they will often have a full beard, dressed in traditional farmer garb, consisting of full woolen tunic, breeches, stockings. It's not really saying whether or not what they like as people, dialects, the height, temperament. I knew I'd seen that somewhere. Despite its small size, the Nisi possesses immense strength. They're easily offended by carelessness, lack of proper respect, and lazy farmers. Okay. As a protector of the farm and a caretaker of livestock, the retributions for bad practices range from small pranks, like a hard strike to the ear, or more severe punishments, like the killing of livestock or the ruining of farm's fortune. Observation of traditions is thought to be the most important to the Nisi, as they do not like changes in the way things are done at their farms. They are also easily offended by rudeness, farm workers swearing, urinating in the barns, or not treating the creatures well can frequently lead to a sound thrashing by a tomte or Nisi. If anyone spills something on the floor in Nisi's house, it is considered proper to shout a warning to the tomte below. Okay, so you've got to be really respectful of them there, or they're gonna get... Okay, they do seem... All right, okay, so this is serious. They're serious. All right then. You don't mess with them. All right, we're jumping for another one here then. So, that Nisi folklore. There was there was a couple here that was a bit weird, but I think I'm just gonna skip past that and go to using Native American ones, because in Native America I found that they had loads. They got quite a few actually. Um, Native American legends of little people. They've got the Mohegans believed in these ones called the Makawarsug. You've got the Esakasone in Canada, believed in little people that lived in a hill in Nova Scotia. You've got the Shoshone, don't know if I'm saying these tribes right, but I'll try my best. You've got the Shoshone tribe, believed in little people called the Nimariga, who lived in the Rocky Mountains. They used bows and poison arrows to keep trespassers away. You've got the Choctaw, called then the Quanekosha. These people were feared and supposedly kidnapped boys to test them and figure out their nature. The Cherokee tribe believed in 3 different types of little people: the Laurels, the Rocks, and the Dogwoods. They range from being good and helpful to purely malicious. The Crow tribe, called the little people the Nirumbi. They supposedly lived in the Pryor Mountains. So yeah, I'm going to focus on just one of these stories then, for I thought I'll go for the Choctaw legend. But it's interestingly, it was not this the original, the first one I listed here by the Choctaw. They called them the Quanekosha, but in this one here, it's gives a bit of a description. But I don't know if it's if they're talking about a different one or the same one. But I'll just show the article here. So yeah, let's have a look at the Native American ones then. So yeah, so we've got them in Europe, we've got them in Scandinavia. We've got them in the fairyland folklore. We've got these Welsh ones called the the Welsh saying Chelawelf Teg. It's like a generic term for the sort of fairy folk in the Welsh language. But it's like, it seems to be so commonplace, and they say see how similar them two were with the Red Dwarf from the French, but then are they getting that from Scandinavia? But then when you go into the Americas and finding they've got the same stories and all described the same, seems a bit weird, doesn't it? Like they've already got it the same. I know they've intertwined the stories, but that's because they match. So I don't know. Anyway, let's have a look at see what the Native Americans are saying then, because the Europe stuff, I've had a look at that. So let's see what they're talking like, because they're looking a bit like kind of guardian spirits to me, like like they're testing the boys. Like the tribe they mentioned is testing, kidnapping boys to test them to see their nature. So they want to see if you're being respectful. Maybe it's like a sample. Maybe you kidnap a boy now and again, see if the tribe's still being good to nature. I don't know. Just the idea. Anyway, little people, Choctaw legend. A long time ago, in ancient times, while the Choctaw Indians were living in Mississippi, the Choctaw legends say that there were certain supernatural beings or spirits that lived near them. The spirits or little people were known as the Kawa Anukasha, or forest dwellers. It's like I say, I'm not sure if that's just a different spelling or whatever. But yeah, they've got the forest dwellers. These are pygmy beings that live deep in the thick of the forest. The homes were caves under the large rocks. When a child is 2, 3, or even 4 years old, he will often wander off into the woods, playing or chasing a small animal. When the little one is well out of sight from his home, the Kwanakasha, it is the same people, who is also always on watch, seizes the boy and takes him away into his cave or his dwelling place. Many times his cave is far away, and the Kwakakasha and the little boy must travel a very long way, climbing many hills and crossing many streams. When they finally reach the cave, the Kwanakasha takes him aside, where he's met by 3 other spirits, all very old, with long white hair. Ah, okay, so that's what I find striking about that is that again, like I mentioned earlier, it's in passing. It's like the minions working for someone else, and that's like a grab to go and put you before somebody, into it, before some kind of panel. To my mind, that's how I was just imagining it just then. Okay. So let's go on with this article then. So the first one offers the boy a knife. The second one offers him a bunch of poisonous herbs, and the third offers a bunch of herbs yielding good medicine. If a child accepts a knife, he is certain to become a bad man, and may even kill his friends. If he accepts the poisonous herbs, he will never be able to cure or help his people. But if he accepts the good herbs, he's destined to become a great doctor and an important and influential man of his tribe and win the confidence of all of his people. When he accepts the good herbs, the free spirits will let him the secrets of making medicine. Will tell him the secrets of making medicine from the herbs, the roots, the bark of certain trees, and treating and curing various fevers, pains, and other sicknesses. This is the reason the little people take the boy to their home in the wilderness, in order to train Indian doctors, transmitting to them their special curative powers, and to train them in the manufacture of their medicines. The child will remain with the spirits for 3 days, after which he is returned. He does not tell where he has been or what he has seen or heard. Not until he becomes a man will he make use of the knowledge gained from the spirits, and never will he reveal to the others how it was acquired. It is said amongst the Choctaw that few children wait to accept the offering of the good herbs from the third spirit, and that is why there are so few great doctors and other men of influence among the Choctaw. It is said that the little people are never seen by the common Choctaw. The Choctaw prophets and herb doctors, however, claim the power of seeing them and holding communication with them. During the darkest nights of all kinds of weather, you can see a strange light wandering around in the woods. This light is the Indian doctor with his little helper, looking for a special herb to treat a cure for a very sick tribesman. So, seems like initiation stuff and checking people. And although it's right, I get it. It's little people. It's like fun. It's like fun. But there's themes in the stories. There's themes in there for me that jump out about that kind of checking people, and it's like initiation stuff. That's what I think. It sounds like that to me, and that's how the spiritual stuff is passed on through initiation and testing, and I'll keep talking about what Aldous Huxley called the perennial philosophy, which seems to be the source material for all the religions. It keeps coming back over and over again, and it's like that same stuff. It's kind of got filters in there where it's like asking you shall receive. If you're ready for it, you'll see it. But if you're not, then like they say in there, most of the kids don't even go through with the test. They just leg it. So, but then it's hard, man. It's hard for a kid not to leg it in a situation like that, right? But anyway, moving on. So yeah, I've got them in Native America. Like I say, there's loads of them. So if I just focus on that one. But then I found this other article, Journal News, where it's like, well, there might be some, maybe they do exist, or at least this particular one in Bugogu. So let's have a look at this guy. Imbugogu. The hidden humanoid. Does Imbugogu still exist? Still exists. That indicates that we already know it exists. What is this then? Imbugogu. In his upcoming book, Between Ape and Human, an anthropologist on the trail of a hidden humanoid, Gregory Forth details how he came into the conclusion that beings, possibly of the species H. florencensis, known as Ubugogu, continues to live on floras and offers eyewitness testimony. So he said he's seen him. Okay, so there's some humanoid that's thought to have passed away. Some hominids thought to not be here. Let's have a look. Let's just highlight that for those in the video. Right. Fourth refers to this being as a ape man, a non-sapien hominin, based on the accounts of the Lao people who think it's an animal that is like human but not human. The 2-hour scripted fictional feature, The Cannibal in the Jungle, presented on Animal Planet in 2015, was described as such. It follows the story of an American scientist who was convicted of killing and cannibalizing 2 colleagues in the jungle of Flores, Indonesia in 1977. Branded the American cannibal by the press during his trial, Dr. Timothy Darrow defended himself by claiming a mythic human ape creature was responsible for the murders. Animal Planet's dramatic story is an imaginative leap inspired by real science. In 2004, a study in journal Nature, big journal, announced the discovery of the bones of an entirely new, remarkable species of humans. Fully grown adult stood only 3. A remarkable species of new humans, they call them humans. Fully grown adults stood only 3 feet tall. Yet they were able to thrive in the chaotic and dangerous world that surrounded them. The new species, nicknamed hobbits, after the J.R.R. Tolkien diminutive heroes, these real hobbits are real hobbits, it says in the article, referring to nature. These real hobbits are purported to have lived less than 20,000 years ago, which would make them the last other species of human to live alongside ourselves. So they would have been the last ones killed off then, in the sounds of that. Oops. Sorry about that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know what to make of that. It seems that they're literally saying the hobbits are kind of for real. Well, there was one a long time ago. There were hobbits. So going back to the Moravians earlier, where there was that the oldest Protestant order in Christianity. I don't know, maybe they were. No, because they had them graves, didn't they? Were really small. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they were folded into the church. Because the church have got these kind of people with cone heads as well. In the Catholic Church, I've seen them, some of the cone head people. And they've got them sort of cone head hats, haven't they? Is that to conceal it? These people with strange heads. So is it like different hominid lines from back in the day? You know? Maybe there's something different. Maybe they've got different properties. I don't know. It's interesting to think about. But moving on, I'll just finish this article off. But these hobbits fully go. But did these hobbits fully go extinct? Well, that's what I was just asking. Later, 60 Minutes sent a film crew to investigate the Nature article while on site in Flores. The crew unearthed a local legend that these creatures might not have died out at all. The Animal Planet's scripted film, The Cannibal in the Jungle, follows the expedition of a team into the heart of Florence to investigate Durrell's claim to find out once and for all if these legendary creatures exist. Personally, I thought the overall presentation is entertaining. That's what it's saying there. So, okay, wrong to describe. Okay, all right then. Ibugogu have hair-covered bodies, longish arms, big bellies, and protruding ears. They were said to walk awkwardly and could be heard murmuring in their own language, and were said to be capable of mimicking human speech. When they could tolerate the Ibugogu no more, the Flores Islanders drove the small people in the direction of the caves, perhaps near Langbao, or perhaps they burned the survivors alive. In any case, the stories were probably told to keep the children. Keep the children in line. You got some nice carvings there. But in the Telegraph, 2004, Richard Roberts, discoverer of the Hobbit, says the local tales suggest the species could still exist. When I was back in Florence earlier this month, we heard the most amazing tales of little hairy people whom they called the Ebu Gogu. Ebu meaning grandmother and Gogu meaning he who eats anything. The tales contained the most fabulous details, so detailed that you'd imagine there had to be a grain of truth to them. One of the village elders told us that Ebu Gogu ate everything raw, including vegetables, fruits, meat, and if they got a chance, even human meat. When food was served to them, they also ate the plates, made of pumpkin. The original guests from hell, so to speak, or heaven if you don't like washing up, as it says there. But yeah, I mean, they eat a lot. I don't know then. So there's another one. So we've got Europe, Native America, around the Americas. They seem to have this one. Where's this from? We've got Africa then. We've got Europe covered. We've got the Americas. You know? Quite a few. Here's another depiction here. Let's just zoom in for the video there. This one's got a lot of red colouring in the artwork there. Like the red dwarf, and they've got the red hats. That red's still coming in. So let's see if there's anything about sort of. Are they thought of as good or bad? I think these ones might be one of them where it's like like say a hominid that they've not found. Maybe not so much like a nature spirit. But it says at the bottom here that Professor Morwood said that it was the wrong man. It was wrong that the team who found the remains were unable to analyze them first. Because a team went in led by they had while the search for the bones are planned, a political foray broken out after a leading Indonesian paleontologist or paleoanthropologist with no connection to the find last week borrowed all the delicate remains from 6 hobbits found in Langbua against the wishes of the locals and Australian team members. Professor Teuku Jacob of Gadjah Mada University, who has challenged the view that the Homo florensis is a new species, has previously taken a skull and bones to make a complete specimen, a 30-year-old female hobbit from the Indonesian Centre of Archaeology in Jakarta, where they had been kept. Professor Morwood says that it was wrong that the team who found the remains were not able to analyse them first. It is not good that the Indonesian researchers nor the institution for Indonesian researchers nor our institution. Yeah, because they made the find. They're supposed to get it first. If you discover you're the first person to map a star that's not been mapped before, you get to name it. The first person to discover a new compound in chemistry, they get to name it. It's kind of the rules. It's like bad form. It's not cricket, as they say. So yeah, an example there, academics grabbing, trying to get credit for stuff because they might analyze it first and find something incredible, and then that'll overshadow the initial finding of it, and then there will become a footnote in history, and there won't be the big name. So that's how that stuff goes. That's why we have to do the research ourselves so we can cut through it. Because something like that can cause things to get locked up and things don't get published, and we don't find out about it. So, just making a point there. Anyway, yeah, I've got a couple more here I just want to blast through. But I had this idea to look for some that in places in America where I know these people are. Now, we'll cover the those from earlier, the little people of the Prairie and the Rocky Mountains. They kind of cover Missouri. I've got a buddy there. Oklahoma, I looked in that kind of area because got all that Native American ones. I thought, see if there's any in Oklahoma. I didn't strictly find any I didn't find any little people in Oklahoma, but I thought for fun, I did find this though. I found it because I know someone who's this kid talks about this mystery bandit that comes, and I thought, well, that's like a little person, a mystery bandit or a little orb. That's kind of like a person. So then I thought, oh, I'll check this, and I found that there is the spook light in Oklahoma. I had no idea about this, so I thought I'd give this one a bit of a look at, because it's kind of fun. Oh, actually, there's a BBC covered it. BBC covered this one actually. There's a Joplin, Missouri, talking about some mysteries there with this spook light. But I'll get the BBC article up instead. Ah, I think I've got the link wrong. Just don't seem to want to do it. Oh well. Try this. Copy paste that. Just do it manually. The hyperlink's not working. Here we go. Paste that in there. I just want to sort of prove that it gets covered in. These things get covered in so-called mainstream reliable news. Just waiting for this to load up. Here we go. Yeah, no idea about this. Look, Route 66 glowing mystery orb. Route 66, I've never heard of it. Never heard of it. Route 66 glowing mystery orb. I've done this one before. It's on about the spook light in Oklahoma. It's, it says here the history is bobbing and bouncing along the dirt road in northwest Oklahoma. The Hornet spook light, a paranormal enigma that for more than a century has been described as an orange ball of light, an orb that travels east to west along a 4-mile gravel road, long called the Devil's Promenade by the area locals. Oh, it's all this there. Let's have a look. So then I found that the BBC had covered this as well, so I thought, I'll look at this one because they might just go a bit more in depth and do a bit more research because they've got all that money. But let's see. So I mean, we ain't got any money, have we? They got they should be ashamed of themselves, MSN. All the funding they've got and the staff. Anyway, yeah. So they're going to report. This one might be a good one there. Just thinking in recent years they don't report too well. Anyway, moving on. The spook light. I know it's not quite a little person, but I thought it was interesting. It's that mystery bandit thing. So I'm gonna have a look at this. So, yeah, the 4-mile stretch, Devil's Promenade, just off Route 66, northwest corner of Oklahoma. A paranormal mystery puzzle as a spirit seekers for more than 100 years. Mysterious basketball-sized glowing orb named for the former town of Hornet has been appearing in the night sky here since 1881. No one knows its peculiar smouldering ball of light signifies where it comes from or what it's composed of. Even the Army Corps of Engineers have concluded that it's a mysterious light of unknown origin. This keeps reoccurring. I mean, I'm not going to go into reading the story. I'm not going to blast, I just thought it was a weird one. Because I'd never heard about this, and apparently it's recurring all the time since 1881. Army knows about it. Don't know nothing. Got nothing for you. I just thought that's strange. Nice picture here from 1970. The Hornet spook light, photographed in 1970 by area photographer Ed Craig, remains a mystery. And it's apparently it's in Ed Craig's collection at the Dobson Museum and Home Archive. So yeah, it's not quite a little person, but I thought it's got the supernatural edge to it, right? Because this seemed to be like nature spirits and stuff. And then of course, if you're gonna, my sister had an encounter where she's seen a little man, and it kind of freaked her out. But she said he was green. And I get that old little green men thing. I thought, well, where does that come from? The little green men sort of trope. Because it's like, it became aliens, didn't it? Not just gnomes and stuff. It's, when she says little green man, she's literally talking about a man. But then it becomes about, I've seen an alien. It turns out, I had a quick look into this, and it says the little green men stereotype, a portrayal of extraterrestrials, humanoid creatures with green skin, sometimes with antenna on their head. I thought, oh yeah, the antenna, yeah. When I was a kid, it used to be aliens that got antennas, but maybe these little green men are like the little red dwarf things with the little horny things like antennas. You know, kind of noticed that. I thought that was quite striking. Anyway, share this again. Yeah, so the little green men. So where does this come from? The term is sometimes described as for gremlins and goblins. That's what we thought it was, and mythical creatures known for causing problems on aeroplanes, mechanical devices, gremlins. Okay, so today the creatures are more commonly associated with alleged alien species called the Greys, whose skins are in fact not green but grey, right? During reports of flying saucers in the 50s, the term little green men became popular usage in reference to aliens, because of one classical case, Kelly at Hopkinsville sighting in 1955, two rural Kentucky men described a supposed encounter with metallic silver objects, somewhat humanoid-looking aliens no more than 4 feet in height. Employing journalistic license and deviating from the witnesses' accounts, many newspaper articles used the term little green men in writing up the story. So that's where it gets crossed over there. But then I thought, well, you've got to have a look, see where these things come from. I think, okay, that kind of makes sense. But maybe they are interrelated. Maybe they are. That you've got these creatures like the Bigfoot thing. What is that? Is that an alien? Is it a cryptid? Is it what? And these things are the earth spirits. And of course, now we've got to the alien thing, little green men. We've got the famous Dr. Stephen Greer famously made a tiny little skeleton that they found, did a documentary. What was it? The Atacama Desert skeleton. Dr. Stephen Greer, did a feature-length documentary. And so this is from The Guardian 2018, because they covered it. A mummified skeleton, they're saying, of a baby girl found in the Chilean desert in 2003. So there's this tiny little skeleton as well. But again, it's got a deformed head, kind of triangular shaped, a little bit like they describe with, some of the earlier folklore accounts from around the world. His unusual pointy shaped head. And perhaps that's the pointy hat thing as well. Perhaps the hat's covering the pointy head, a bit like the cone heads in the Catholic Church. Or maybe they mistake the pointy head for a hat. I just thought that was quite an interesting little link there. They kind of go together, don't they? Sort of thing. The sort of aliens and mythical creatures, and as McKenna said, maybe disguising themselves as UFOs so as not to alarm us. And there's that thing of Jacques Vallée saying "Passport to Magoni." It's like aliens aren't aliens. It's like the more spiritual, and as in the UFOs, the way they move. So it's something to think about. I find it quite enthralling to think about this stuff, and I find it especially curious and fascinating that when this stuff come out with Stephen Greer doing this serious documentary, also at the same time, I found out that in the 90s, Russia had one that was very, very similar. There was a Russian case that with this woman is supposed to have had this tiny little skeleton very, very similar to this. And at the time, I looked up and found the documentary. Well, to see there was a real Russian documentary. So this from Russia Beyond. If you want to look these things up, links in the description. Yeah, this is the Alyoshenko and the Kaishdym dwarf. So alien from outer space ? Or mutant boy. Same sort of thing. Same kind of depiction. Real or not, I don't know. In the summer of 1996, a small Ural city of Kaishdym, 1.7 kilometers east of Moscow, witnessed a bizarre scene. A retired woman, Tamara Prosverina, was walking down the street and she uncovered the blanket and she was talking to it. She was telling us, "It's my baby." who was called Alyoshenko, short for Alexei, but never showed it, the locals recall. Prosvinera actually had a son named Alexei, but he was grown up, and it was and in 1996 he was doing time for theft. So we decided that the woman had gone nuts and was talking to a toy, thinking it was her son. And she did indeed have mental illnesses, and several months later, had to be sent to a clinic and treated for schizophrenia, right? So the thing in the blanket, however, was not a toy, but a living creature she'd found in the woods near a well. Okay. So the story goes, this thing was like 20, 25 centimeters tall, humanoid, a brown body, no hair, big protruding eyes, moving its tiny little lips, making squeaking sounds. According to Tamara Neumova, Prostavira's friend who had seen, the eyewitness have seen it in an apartment, who later told Komanoskaya Bradavada his opinion it was an onion shape and didn't look human at all. His mouth was red and round, and he was looking at us, said another witness. The daughter of the it says Prosvinia's daughter-in-law. According to her, the woman was feeding the strange baby with her cottage cheese and condensed milk. He looked sad. I felt pain while looking at him, the daughter-in-law recalled. So there's witnesses about this. You know, there was a documentary about it. I think, obviously, the skeleton would have got took away, I would have thought. But yeah, accounts by local officials differ. For instance, Vyacheslav Nagoski mentioned the dwarf was hairy and had blue eyes, but Nina Yelazrina, Petrova's other friend, stated he was standing near the bed with big eyes. Well, that's not that much different. Big blue eyes. One said big, one said she didn't mention hair. Others say it was hairless. Okay. The only thing these people agree on was that it looked like a real alien. Okay. That's what it says in Rushavion. On the other hand, the testimonies of the people like Natrkovsky and Glazrina are dubious. Both were drunkards. Oh, okay. I wonder who these were. Were these getting to the story? Okay. So the family saw it, and then a couple of drunken friends that were making stuff up. That just kind of makes sense, getting on the action. In fact, most of her friends died of alcoholism, it says here. So they were both drunkards, as well as most of Prostavrina's other friends later died of alcoholism anyway. Journalist Andrei Lorshak, who made a film about the dwarf, well, this is the guy who did the documentary then, okay, quoted the locals. Perhaps it was an extraterrestrial humanoid. In this case, made the mistake of landing in Kreishdom. Sounds about true. The city, with a population of 37,000, was not exactly paradise, even not taking into account the local alcoholics. In 1957, they faced the first nuclear disaster in Soviet history. Plutonium exploded at Mayak, a nearby secret nuclear power station, threw 160 tons of concrete lead into the air. The third most serious nuclear accident in history, behind Fukushima in 2011 and Chernobyl in 1986. The region and the atmosphere were seriously polluted. And it said sometimes fishermen will catch fish that have no eyes or fins. Maybe that was a thing then. Maybe it was deformation or something. I found it curious that it was very, very similar to the one that Stephen Gray found in the desert. And it's curious that they've got very similar shaped heads to some of the folklore stuff. And it's curious, it's that thing again? Is it linked to aliens? Is aliens and these folklore creatures linked to the spirit stuff and the religion stuff, for the angels and gods or the elementals? There's so many questions. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to get another show out this week. I've had this one floating in my head for a while. So I thought, it's a fun thing, you know. Christmas Eve. Little diddy people. But who knows? Who knows? My sister could have seen stuff. You know, I've seen weird stuff. I reckon my dad was a little bit telepathic as well. We're Celtic, we are, so could be in there. Got the gift. Got the sight. Could be. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled as well, because you can miss stuff. You miss stuff. People miss stuff anyway. Just walking at normal stuff, walking down the street. You know, eyewitness testimony is rubbish. A lot of the time. So I don't know. But I think shocking things, you kind of stick in your mind, don't they? So I don't know, something like that probably stay with you. But do your research, folks. That's what I say. I always say that. That's why I put the links in as well. Always check this. Yeah, actually check this stuff out sometimes. Even just test it. I used to do that with some people like years ago, like Alex Jones. I was testing him for ages. And I keep checking all these documents. I couldn't believe it. I thought, it's got to be crazy. But the Alex Jones was right. Jaw's getting a bit fat. So do your homework. Do your homework. Honestly, it's good for you. Exercise your brain. Make you live longer. Anywho, Liam Martin, another show. Little People, Exile Minds podcast, 24th December 2022. So posterity. 3:30. We're just gone now. 3:37 a.m. for me. So, you know it is. But yeah, I just thought I'd try and get this, get another show out. Get this Little People show done. And then, yep. I'll be back soon. Loads more content coming up this year. So, you take care of yourself. I might get another one out before Christmas. If not, definitely one before the New Year. Take care of yourself. And you know what they say. Check it for yourself. See you next time. Exile Minds Podcast, Liam Martin. Links in description, Discord, share and all that. Got a new server. So check it out. Put any comments about what you think about this stuff. It's always nice to know. Take it easy. See you later.
The way a man with a microscope might scrutinize the creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacency, in which to and fro around the globe. Confident of our influence over this world. Yet, across the gulf of space, insects, vast and cool and unsympathetic, regarding our planet within these eyes. And slowly and surely, through their ears, against us.
I've given up all chance at inner peace. I've made my mind a sunless place. I share my dreams. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for it. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight. They set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I share my dreams with those. I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy. I defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make the sunrise that I know I'll never see. Well, the ego that started this fight never had a mirror, an audience, the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything!